Okay, we're going to continue on in our Father's Word today. I wanted to go over this timeline again with you a little further back. Now, after Joshua, you got the 12 judges of Israel. Now, Samuel was the last of the 12 judges. And God had Samuel anoint King Saul, king of Israel. And he also anointed David as a young shepherd boy as the king of Israel. He anointed both of them. And so this is around 1000 BC. Then around 950, there was 40 years of King Saul. 40 means probation in biblical numerics. You had 40 years of King David, and then you had 40 years of King Solomon. But King Solomon messed up. He worshiped little g gods, built shrines on the side of the Mount of Olives there, right across from God's Ark of the Covenant in Solomon's temple. Solomon did that, and I'm sure it made God very angry, because Solomon's supposed to be so smart. If there was anybody in the world that knew better than to do that, it would have been Solomon. So after Solomon died, his son Rehoboam took over Judea, Jerusalem, and Benjamin, and the Levites, the priest. And so they had the three major feasts: Passover, Festival of Weeks, and Succoth, the Feast of the Tabernacles. And they worshiped those three major feasts there in Jerusalem. Now, Rehoboam took over the two southern tribes, and Jeroboam had no relation to Solomon. He came from Egypt. He was hiding out over in Egypt. And he came and took over the 10 northern tribes, and they started worshiping Baal, Satan. They built a golden calf in Dan and a golden calf in Bethel under Jeroboam. And so God sent, after the 10 northern tribes, he sent the Assyrians. And in order to do that, he sent Jonah to preach salvation to the Ninevites, the Assyrians, people of Nineveh, Mosul, Iraq of today, northern Iraq, northeastern Iraq, way up north in Iraq. Now, then in 722 BC, the capital of Ephraim was taken by the Assyrians, sent by God. After Jonah preached salvation to the Ninevites, they worshiped Dagon, the fish god, God's little children, threw them into Dagon's altar fire. Then they had sex orgies in the groves. That's how they worshiped Dagon. Half man, half fish. Well, when they saw that great fish spit Jonah out on the seashore there, they just knew he was from God. It was real easy for Jonah, after they saw that, to preach salvation to the Ninevites. And then Nineveh, after they all accepted salvation from God, God sent the Ninevites, the Assyrians, into the 10 northern tribes. And they were taken over a period of 200 years. And the master builders, the masons, and the iron workers were sold into slavery to the Greeks, mostly. And then after a period of years, they won their freedom from the Greeks, and they crossed over the Caucasus Mountains there in north of Greece. And they went into Europe and scattered all over Europe. The tribe of Manasseh ended up in the United States and Canada. George Washington, Paul Revere, Benjamin Franklin, they were all from the tribe of Manasseh. And then the tribe of Ephraim, Joseph's other son Ephraim, Manasseh and Ephraim were Joseph's two sons born in Egypt. the tribe of Ephraim ended up in England and the British Commonwealth, Australia, New Zealand, and all over the Commonwealth of England. And then Reuben, the tribe of Reuben, ended up mostly in France. The French Jews, master builders over in France, are from the tribe of Reuben, the oldest of the 12 sons of Jacob. So that's how the Assyrians, what the Assyrians did with the master builders mostly. They sold them into slavery to the Greeks. Now in 722, the capital of Ephraim was taken by the Assyrians. And then in 663 BC, they took Thebes, Egypt. And then 612, after Sennacherib was the last of the great Assyrian leaders, he had Jerusalem surrounded, had Hezekiah like a bird in a cage. And Hezekiah prayed to God for deliverance. And God sent his death angel, and 185,000 were killed by God's death angel in one night. So Sennacherib went home with no army. And it didn't take the Babylonians to figure out that the Assyrians didn't have an army anymore. So that in 612 BC, Babylon defeats the Assyrians. And then in 605 BC, the Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, 605 BC, went into Jerusalem the first time. And then in 597 BC, they go into Jerusalem again. And then in 586 BC, the Hebrew children rebelled again. And so they utterly destroyed Jerusalem that time. And then they had a 70-year captivity. And then around 514 BC, the captivity was over. And then Ezra went back to Jerusalem because Cyrus the Great freed the Hebrew children from Babylon, and Ezra was given a lot of the stuff that the priests used in Solomon's temple. The goblets, the gold goblets, and the plates, and some of the stuff that Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple. Now, that's the timeline here of what happened over in Israel. This is covered from 1000 BC, time of King David. Now we go over into Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings. We'll go through all the kings after Rehoboam was the king after Solomon. Now this is Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 15. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. I will scatter them, so also the heathen, whom neither they have nor their fathers have known. I will send a sword after them, till I have consumed them. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye, and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send for cunning women, that they may come, and let them make haste and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with waters. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land, because our dwellings has cast us out. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of his mouth, and teach your daughters wailing, and every one her neighbor lamentation. For death is come up into our windows, and is entered into our palaces, to cut off the children from without, and the young men from the streets. Speak, thus saith the Lord. Even the carcasses of men shall fall as dung upon the open field, as a handful after the